I can't believe I'm actually here going down to the TSX, and you have the first U.S. cannabis multi-state operator that's listing on the TSX. So, what does this listing now mean for your company? And is this a turn? Basically, you're turning the corner, I should say, for the overall industry. Would you say?
We hope so. We hope so. I mean, I don't want to, make this whole thing out
Yeah, yeah.
bigger than it is, but it is. We believe that this is sort of the final piece of what we needed to pull together to be an independent company. And when we say independent, we mean independent of the need for U.S. regulatory reform.
Yeah.
We started that last year. Made a lot of changes to our business, cut expenses. Got ourselves to positive cash flow. But this is truly, as everybody knows, the cost of capital is so expensive in the cannabis space. Debt, interest rates are extremely high. We feel like being on a major exchange
Yeah.
is going to, as long as we continue to execute, should really lower our cost of capital and be that final piece of what we needed to be independent.
Here we are 6 years later in Toronto on a summer morning, listing on the TSX. How did this all come together? Like, when did the conversation start happening?
That original investment I mentioned that Canopy made into the
Yeah.
company, about 7 months later, we went to them and said, hey, we want to go to the U.S.
Oh, so this has been going on for a good 5 years then.
Yes, exactly. So the TSX was amenable to allowing Canopy to still hold their shares. They actually technically had to turn them into the exchangeable share structure that we know that they're in today. And then over the years, about a year later, we got a loan from Canopy where the money was lent to our Canadian subsidiary. It was sort of like a synthetic convert where they had warrants to step into ownership of the U.S. shares, which they just did with that equitization back in this past December.
Right.
So we've had a dialogue with the TSX for several years, as I've mentioned, and we're truly, I believe, one of the only Canadian LPs that almost completely pivoted their business into the U.S. So we're really, we're a Canadian domiciled company, and
It's a unique story.
yeah,
That's for
I
sure.
think that our sort of roots really helped us here in terms of our relationship with the TSX and what's going on
What
today.
is that like? Like, how have they been? I assume that they're
Oh.
pretty ecstatic.
They have been really, really great. I mean,
Yeah.
they have been very collaborative, very responsive, and yeah, we feel like they're as excited about this, maybe almost excited about this as we are.
What was their first conversation when you wanted to list, say, 4 or 5 years ago, to like what it is now? Like, what's changed, would you find?
Yeah, we never even 4 or 5 years ago it was more about what they would allow with Canopy in terms of already being an owner and what type of structure they would need to have, and then the loan later. But really, we didn't dig in a serious conversation with them about listing until this past October. It was when Canopy announced that they were stepping into their ownership of Acreage and
Right.
Jetty and Wana, and that they were going to stay on the TSX and the Nasdaq, and that sort of rekindled our conversations with them. It sort of told us what they would allow and what they wouldn't allow, and we went to them and said, well, we could do something similar structure-wise.
So then it started to move fast.
It started to move really fast, and they've been since pretty much January of this year. It's been moving very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wiz, how do you communicate to your investors in a day and an age where investors want to see things move like yesterday? You know, previous generations, if you invested in something and you thought the value of the company would be worth more in 3 years from what it is now, that's what people did.
Mm-hmm.
Where now it's just like, it's almost like a casino, the way people just want to like just throw money and want instant gratification, because let's face it, in society, you can go onto Amazon, whatever you want, it's on your doorstep within 3 hours. But
Sure.
how do you deal with that when trying to manage expectations of investors? Because if they're patient with the right information, things can be
Yeah.
very viable for them. Sorry, we cut you off. Did you hear that, Wiz? Or
Yeah, no, I did. Sorry about that. So, Shad, it's a great question because you're right. The atmosphere now is I want my money, I want it now. So,
Yeah.
I lead with the exact opposite of that attitude in the psychedelic space, and here's what I mean. First of all, in the psychedelic space, and as you guys know, I run the No Fallen Heroes Foundation, right? So it's a 501c3 dedicated to saving the lives of veterans, first responders, and their families with psychedelic assisted therapy. So I call this sector a self-licking ice cream cone, right? Check this out. You can potentially help save a life or change a life and potentially profit. So, usually people are just focused on what? Profit. I need it and I want it now, Whiz. And if I don't get it, I'm pretty upset. I don't lead with that, actually, Shad. I lead with, check this out. You can invest in a space right now that is helping humanity. I put it on a chart, man. Here's the United States and the world right now. And we're kind of in a nosedive, man. It's a bad place. Anthony brought up a price target in 2027. I don't even know if the world's going to exist right now, man. We got war in. I didn't think in my lifetime I'd be using the words war in Europe. There's a war in Europe right now. China is their mouth is watering over Taiwan. And speaking of 27, Xi Jinping told the heads of, his joint chiefs of staff, like, be ready to invade by Taiwan by 27. We got Israel, we got Iran. So there's so much going on. But this space, the rise of this space, the rise of psychedelic assisted therapy might intersect the implosion of the world. So when people are like, when for profit, I'm like, no. Why don't you lead with your heart and your truth? And guess what's going to come after that? Potential profit. So all the people at Top Gun Options I've been telling to, like we just talked about, I said, this is internet 1999, 2000, man. Yeah. I'm giving you the intel that I saw in Denver and that I'm seeing on the front lines, but put kind of profit in the background a little bit, lead with good, and I guarantee your profit's going to follow that.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with this sector. It's very easy to fundamentally believe in. I mean, especially because you can see firsthand accounts on a daily basis. I mean, you can actually talk to people that are touched by the medicine, talk to the practitioners. The heads of these companies are actually pretty easily accessible, all things considered, at conferences and online. And it's very easy to see the long-term vision of the sector very, very easily from a firsthand account today. And it is just patience. I mean, you're not going to get crypto. I mean, you will potentially get crypto gains in this sector, but it's not going to come in 5 days. It's going to take. It's funny. It's going to be a much longer time horizon.
Agreed. It's funny because out in Denver, they were either dressed like feds or they were pharma executives, right? They were either fed or pharma executives. So pharma speaks with forked tongue right now, right? They kind of poo-poo all this stuff, all at the same time they're trying to build a moat around it. But God's a great pharmacologist. You can't patent a root and you can't trademark a toad. So when, not if, Big Pharma jumps in with their size 12 boots, man, all bets are off. And I think the way Big Pharma is looking at this right now, whether it's a Compass, a Ty, a MindMed, a Cybin, a bunch of different names, Celius, Numinus, I think they're waiting for the dust to settle, and then they're going to swoop in and go, yeah, here's a check for all of you, and now you're mine. So that's the other long-term play, Anthony. When you look at the 27 is Pfizer Moderna, one of these guys or gals just comes in and strokes a big check and takes it all over. Now, that's the Gordon Gecko talking in me, which would be fantastic. The Whiz in me hates that. I mean, that makes my skin crawl. But if we're talking about making money, that's a distinct possibility that's going to happen. That these names just get scooped up by Big Pharma.
So when you say yo-yo, break it down. Ben, I know you're good when it comes to explaining what's going on the latest in Washington pertaining to safe banking. So what's the latest twist? And here we go, right?
Yeah, the latest twist is basically the markup vote, which was basically presumed to be like a rubber stamp, like it was going to get through that and then go to the Senate, and then there would be some potential complications with Senate Democrats and Chuck Schumer in terms of adding amendments to the bill. But as it turns out, the markup vote may not be even happening because there's a disagreement about something called Section 10. Of the bill, and that's the portion of the bill that prohibits a federal banking agency from requesting or ordering a depositor institution to terminate a specific bank account. So the Democrats want to eliminate that or gut that section, and the Republicans want to keep that section, right? So it is come to light that it may not have the 60 votes needed to potentially prevent a filibuster, and they don't want to get it out of committee necessarily if they don't have those votes. So there's a hang up there, and now the markup vote, which was assumed before, is kind of in the balance. So we'll see. I mean, it's another of the long list of hang ups that happen with safe banking, and nothing's ever certain in
Okay,
Washington.
so this section 10, was this language that was recently added?
No,
No,
No.
that's been in there.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. I sold my Curaleaf position. I also sold my MSOS calls. I booked a 50% gain on the options. I booked a 30% gain on the stock, and I'll be back in. I'm not going to
yeah,
fuck around.
probably not a bad move.
No, 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 no. I'm not going to mess around here. I mean, we're at the mercy of the politicians, and it's already coming to be like they're at each other's throat, and they're already showing signs of discourse. I don't want to be around for that. That being said, I'm watching the tape closely.
Yeah.
I'm looking for entry points to get back in. I'm looking for undervalued assets to get back in. If there's light, I'm probably going to take a stab at AYR. Over
Really?
a lot. Yeah, I mean they're beating the shit. They've shored up their balance sheet to a degree in the past 30 days. They're trading
What are
under
they
their
tra- what are they
they're
trading
trading
at
under
now?
their cash position. Their market cap's I think $70
Wow.
million. I think it was
Wow.
68 million when I looked at it the other day.
I still can't wrap that around
85.
my head.
85. The stock actually took that's still crazy. On a forward 12, their annualized revenue is $400 million. And they're fortifying their position in Florida. They're starting to come online in other markets. And to be honest, they were the most popular, undervalued MSO in the Twitter poll that we did this week, which actually got me looking into them. So thank you to the audience. It's a great way to do diligence. But at the same time, yeah, I mean,
Very
Section
good
10.
way.
The thing that sucks is right now is Section 10, which seems to be the sticking point. It's a non-starter if this gets descheduled anyway, because
Yeah.
then the banks will have no reason to potentially shut down these accounts. So I mean, it's just we're back in the bullshit, just with our tire spinning. And I mean, I think Jason Wild said it best. Like, I don't fucking care about safe banking. I'm building this
Yeah.
business so it can run if with or without it.
So let me ask you this. Some of our viewers came back and some people emailed us saying, wow, this is a lot that's dependent on MDMA being approved. And you and I have discussed this before in the past. It's a foregone conclusion. So if you're in front of a group of investors, why do you feel confident this will approve? Is there any chance of MDMA not being approved?
While it's definitely I don't know if I would say it's dependent on MDMA being approved. I would say there's a very, very big catalyst that we've been getting prepared for, being
Okay.
MDMA being approved. I feel like we should maybe always start the call with just a re-comforting everybody in regards to MDMA being approved. But I don't know if there's much else that you would need to see in order to get approval. I
And
mean,
these phase
we've
3
seen
readouts will define that, right?
whether it's the phase 3 readouts, we've seen billing codes get approved. We've seen,
Good point.
everything from, and don't get me wrong, US, presidents say things sometimes that don't necessarily come into fruition, but everything to you've had Biden, put it in an address saying
Yeah.
that he intends on legalizing MDMA and psilocybin therapy. So
Well, you make some good points about the AMA improving insurance codes. I think that's what people have to go back to. Why is this being implemented right now, right?
and not just like broad stroke billing codes, but like, if people go and read that information, like they've done their homework.
Yeah.
It's significant, and they don't approve billing codes just for the sake
Unless
of
they see something.
they're not looking for things to do.
So if
yeah.
and when this does pass by the FDA, which you think it's going to, the next thing we want to switch now to is the Numinus network. So how's that preparation going as it's set to unveil the first full quarter of operations?
It's been incredible to see the positive response, not just from practitioners, but also again from drug developers who are really, really excited about that. Again, coming out of the conference, the amount of interest is we're now at a point of frankly it's more us prioritizing, who we want to go through that process with first. There's no shortage of interest, and frankly, while yes, there's a lot of excitement about MDMA therapy, there's a lot of clinics out there that are very excited about ketamine assisted therapy that haven't been able to get a model together that works. And
So,
there's a lot of interest in people using our model to be able to offer just ketamine therapy and traditional mental health services.
So with the amount of ketamine clinics that are across the US, because that's something to factor in too, and there's a lot, and a lot of them are not profitable, but with the right infrastructure in play and the right
Mhm.
practitioner training, you think that kind of implementation of education could turn a
Yeah.
clinic from being into the positive, is what you're
Yeah.
indicating?
Not just that, but things like protocol, like clinic SOPs, protocols, training, but reimbursement. I mean, we get
Right.
the amount of reimbursement we get and the infrastructure that we've built around reimbursement is really, I can't underscore the significance of that for not just MDMA therapy when it's available, but ketamine as well. We've been, and Spravato most recently put out their numbers. We
Big.
are, I can't give too much detail about this, but we are a very, very big percentage in regards to amount that gets reimbursed for Spravato. And that's something obviously we'll look to leverage for MDMA assisted therapy, but for ketamine as well. Most people who are offering ketamine therapy are having their clients still have to pay out of pocket.
Right.
We get 80% of our ketamine gets covered under insurance at the moment.
What's the cost for people that are doing that right now out of pocket?
It's anything from a couple $100 to thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It sort of it depends on what your pathway is and how dependent you are, or how severe your symptoms are.
Hey everyone, so how are you surviving these tough market conditions right now? Are there any emerging industries that you want us to cover? Any guests that you want us to interview? Then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to source out. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like and notification bell, and as usual, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.